Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, not only will I be trying to help you get better, but I've also enlisted the help of the War Thunder community to help you get better at the game. In fact, this might actually be my best video for noobs and beginners, as all other videos on the subject had tips thought of basically by me exclusively, with maybe one or two tips sprinkled in there being the exception. This video features tips provided by the community, and some of them are amazing and things that I honestly never thought of. So thank you to all who participated. Basically, this video will have numerous of what I thought were either the best or most relevant tips for War Thunder that the community recently responded to with a community post that I made on YouTube. I'll be posting the tips from the community, and then I'll go into a bit more detail on how I think that these tips can be applied for maximum effectiveness. Again, I want to thank you, the community, for a ton of help with this video. That said, let's get into it. To start, I'll go over a tip by Chandra Defiant. It says, for ground, learn the maps and learn what your vehicles can and cannot do. Pay attention to where the enemies go, where your team goes, and any sneaky spots people manage to kill you from especially. I'd also recommend starting in arcade because it's pretty helpful for learning what your rounds can pen and where. Perfect, excellent way to start this video. I totally agree. Learn your maps. There are so many spots that people just congregate to. I really wish that there were heat maps in War Thunder in which you could say where people go to most. Those are probably going to be the spots that you want to avoid typically, especially in ground. Just trust me guys, find the outcroppings, find the spots where you can be behind cover and really only expose your cannon and shoot from there. Those are great spots and you don't even need to camp. You can go on the offense and find these spots. There are in many maps, even city maps. Definitely go ahead, check them out. Explore the flanks of a map. It is a great practice. And also starting in arcade, that is a great way to start. It is a great sort of way to learn the game. And heck, even through higher tiers, play arcade. It's a ton of fun in ways that you might never expect. For number 2, this one is by NVGD. And it says, play casual and do not play for the grind. Do not buy premium vehicles like jets or anything above rank 3 until you are at that BR in the tech tree. If you want to buy something for whatever reason, buy premium time and do not spend GE on RP boosting. I cannot agree more. Especially with the GE on RP boosting, it is a huge waste. In fact, actually, there was a recent vehicle that I was about to unlock. I was only about 1,000 RP away from unlocking it, and to do so would cost me something like 20 to 25 GE, which is, in my opinion, just ridiculous when you can play just a regular match and receive many times more RP for that, plus you're getting RP for your vehicles and the modification that they can unlock. It is a big waste of money. Don't do it. And also, when it comes to buying premium vehicles, unless you are completely sure that you can handle a vehicle, it is not advisable to just go ahead and purchase a higher ranked vehicle than you are used to. I can say that from personal experience. I purchased the XM1 and the Leopard A1 L44 years ago, and this is when I had something like 8.0 BR tanks, and I should have been pretty prepared. I was close enough to being able to use the tanks in that BR bracket that they would have been in anyways, and guess what? I stunk out loud until I got up to around that BR. Same goes for planes. It is not generally advisable to play with vehicles, especially premiums, that are far outside of your experience. People getting frustrated because they purchase far outside of their experience level is probably going to be the #1 reason why people quit War Thunder, at least insofar as new players are concerned. For the third tip, this one is by Burrito Leo. It says, I would have to get a balanced lineup so their vehicles can work off each other. I totally agree. This is huge, and this kind of goes with the previous comment that was made, the previous tip. Basically, you want to have a bunch of vehicles that are kind of similar to BR, so I would typically not go far off of the BR, I guess you could say, standard in your lineup. So, for example, you don't want like a 9.0 BR tank and then have the rest of your lineup being like 4.0 BR. That is not going to be good. That 4.0 BR lineup will be absolutely annihilated, and it will make it so that you get frustrated again very easily. Instead, purchase yourself a premium around that 4.0 BR, or just take that 9.0 BR out of your lineup, and you will have a much better time, because what happens is that you have your lineups, and as soon as you enter in a higher BR vehicle, so your matchmaking gets basically set by whatever the highest BR vehicle is in your lineup. So you really want to make sure that your highest BR vehicle is not far off from the average of your lineup. Also, I'll try to link it below, but I do have a vehicle lineup creation, I guess you could say, video down below for tips and tricks on how to do that. So definitely check it out. For the fourth one, we have Sergeant Major saying, Tanks go where the waters flow. The chieftain's best advice. Look for the low ground and use the terrain to your advantage. I agree, a lot of people really prioritize high ground, and while it can be very useful in many situations, high ground without cover is a death trap. You will be killed because you will be on a platform where everybody else can see you, even if you might not necessarily be able to see everyone else, or more importantly, hit everyone else, because typically your gun depression in a tank is going to be worse when looking down, of course, because that's what gun depression is, than gun elevation, of course, when looking up. So oftentimes, believe it or not, you have a little bit of an advantage when on lower terrain than somebody on higher terrain would have, just from a gun depression and elevation standpoint. So you're going to want to make sure that whatever you feel is best works for you, but if you are going to be on higher ground, make sure that you have at least some level of concealment or cover, but typically lower ground, believe it or not, will help you a ton. Fifth, we have Alpha Nomad saying, don't overfill your tank with ammo. Don't tank more than you need. Don't ever take more than 20 rounds unless sniping. You will die before using them all anyways. And 2, always carry a mix of shell types. Always have at least 3 rounds of chemical shells for light targets and helis, and to overpressure others. I totally agree. This one is a little bit different because sometimes you might need more ammunition, because if your tank fires extremely quickly, you might need more than that 20 rounds. So it's kind of a variable thing here. I've had some people quote it as saying if your reload is less than 5 seconds, carry more ammunition. If it's between like 5 and 8, carry this much. If it's over 8, then carry X or Y amount. So you might want to do it based on however long your reload is, but typically you should never carry a full load unless you really have almost no ammunition, kind of like with the AML 90, it's a French light tank. That one I typically carry just about a full load of ammo because it can only carry around 20 or 16 shells anyways, so it's pretty much going to need all of it, especially in a long duration match. But also, you are of course going to want to carry a mixture of shell types, because even at top tier, I always carry typically at least 4 Heat FS shells, because you never know. There are some instances, especially when it comes to lighter vehicles, where you just need a Heat FS shell because it'll just explode a little bit better on lighter vehicles than a really, really fast firing or really, really heavily penetrating APF SDS shell. Also, insofar as the ammo is concerned, when it comes to limiting how much ammo, in case you were wondering, War Thunder does indeed track how many shells you have in your tank. So if you use, like, let's say 10 shells out of your 30, you'll actually have 10 fewer shells for the enemy to hit and blow up on your tank. So it is very important that you make sure that you have a lesser amount of shells than you would normally have if you brought the maximum. Maximum is almost never necessary. Number 6, and this is one that I think not a lot of people talk about and not a lot of people think about. This is by Septic Logan. You do not have to shoot every enemy you see. I totally agree. This one is huge. Learn your pacing. Just because you have the opportunity to go there doesn't mean that you have to actually do it. There are plenty of times, let's say if you're seeing a tortoise in what, around a 7.0 BR match, you see an enemy British tortoise, and he is coming at you, and guess what? All that you have is an autocannon. It's best not to piss him off. Trust me, guys, there are a lot of other tanks that you can probably just go and fight. At worst, go and shoot his tracks off. Make sure he cannot maneuver, really, but that's about it. Flank him, do whatever, or wait for other enemies to show up. Trust me. One of my favorite quotes that's kind of similar to this subject, but a little bit off because it's a totally different thing altogether, is that Led Zeppelin, my favorite band, Robert Plant said, the thing that made John Bonham, their drummer, so great wasn't the things that he did do, but it was the things that he did not do. It was the things that he kind of refrained from doing, and it was that level of control that made him so great. Be that person. Have the control. Don't fire all willy-nilly in a match, and trust me, you will do a lot better. It is sometimes better not to alert the enemy to your presence, even if you can hit him, if you can avoid it. For the 7th tip, we have Dumb Mouse, and this one says, learn weak points on enemy tanks at least 1 BR ahead of you. That way you will be prepared in the event of an up tier. That is very true. I actually have a weak spot guide if you'd like. I'll probably try to link it down below, but basically, you are going to want to make sure that you can defeat most tanks that are way stronger than you. So War Thunder has a nasty habit of throwing you into up tiers, especially total up tiers. And so often I see people in, let's say, an M24 trying to face a KV tank from the front, and they don't know what to do because they think that the 75mm shell that they have, the cannon, is not going to do anything. Trust me, guys, you can beat a KV-1 from the front. It's not all that difficult. You just need to know the weak spots. There are so many situations where it looks like a tank might be invulnerable from the front, maybe a T-44. I used to have a ton of difficulty with that. But guess what? I learned the weak spots because I went into the protection analysis for the T-44. I gave it a go with the King Tiger tank, and I learned right away what its strengths and weaknesses were. But again, I do have videos on that, so definitely check them out. But it is very important to know your enemy's weaknesses because that is how you will beat them. 8th, we have this by Yappy, and it says, if you like the game, I would advise you to buy premium when there is a sale. I would also advise to play events and watch the market. I myself got an easy $50 from the Tailspin event. I totally agree with this. So while before I did say that you shouldn't really buy too much above what your experience level is, and I still remain that to be true, if there is a sale and you're planning to buy for a long time, it's not a terrible idea to dip your toes in the water. What I did myself was I purchased the XM1, played it for about 10 matches, realized I was terrible, then decided that I needed to put it away for a little bit and get better at the game at around that BR. So then I grinded up to it, got myself the XM803, got myself a lineup around it, and I ended up doing a lot better with the XM1. So that also pertains to lower BR vehicles. Wait for sales, get yourself a nice lower BR GE premium vehicle, and you will do really well. This will help a huge amount with the grind, especially if you already have premium time. By having premium time and a premium vehicle, especially for aircraft, trust me, this will be a huge way that you can earn both RP and SL. And for our 9th comment, we have by the Austrian Avenger. Use binos, it's free. I totally agree. This one is one that Gaijin, War Thunder, they agree with you, Austrian Avenger, 100%. It might seem cheesy, and it is kind of funny because this is an in-game tip, but I actually totally agree. I mean, there's a lot of people that just look through their gun sights to try to get zoom. By using binos, you are not restricted by the turret traverse rate on your vehicle, so if you have a really slowly turning vehicle for the turret, or even just the tracks, by using your binoculars, you can look around the battlefield at any speed that you're able to, which is a huge advantage, and you can maneuver your tank accordingly based on whatever you see. So use your binos, it's free. That said, I've given 9 of my favorite tips from the community thus far, so to cap this video off with the 10th tip, I'll give my own tip. I'll say to go back and really look at how you play from an unbiased viewpoint, whether it's through watching the occasional replay, jotting down notes, or whatever helps you most. Make sure that you are your own best and worst critic. Ever since becoming a YouTuber, I've gotten substantially better at War Thunder, largely because I've been forced to dissect parts of my playstyle that I've never noticed before. Whether it's tanks, planes, or even ships, I've become much more familiar with how the game works and how I play in ways that I've never considered. A shortcut to this is to watch videos to get better, but I find that looking at how you play and improving upon it is almost always going to be the most effective way of improving in this game. Trust me guys, look at yourself, look deep within how you play, and you will find the answer to how to get better. That all said, thank you all so much for watching, especially thank you for all of the community members who participated in this. Whether I read your comment in this video or not, there are so many other ones I wish I could have included in this, but that video probably would have been upwards of 30, 40, 50 minutes. But either way, thanks again everyone. Please like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the dealio, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.